Hello, BookTube. I went out today, believe it or not. Last night, I was 100% sure that only a fool would go out on a day that was predicted to be 100 degrees Fahrenheit, with merciless, unbroken sunlight. That only a fool would do that, would go out and walk around in pants in such weather. And I wasn't going to be one of them. I was going to write and read all day, and then I got a phone call. I got a phone call from one of my blue-haired Beacon Hill Boston Brahmin biddy beans. this cadre of women I know who live on Boston's Beacon Hill. They're all as wealthy as Mammon. They all have their names on large parts of Boston's history or its buildings or its highways. They're all from old money, and I got to know all of them when all they had to do was cross Boston Common to come and see me at my bookstore. I ran the information desk of a large and busy bookstore, and they started to become my customers. All it takes when you do that, when you're in a position like that, all it takes is for you to prove to the customer that you know what you're talking about. Or better yet, make them a recommendation they really love, and they'll be yours. And the affection went both ways. So I'm not a bookseller anymore, but I'm still theirs at their beck and call. They're still my customers, as one of them put it. They're still my customers. And she called and invited me to lunch up on Beacon Hill, and I couldn't really say no, so I went. And because I was going to be out in this horrific weather anyway, where you take 10 steps and you start out getting dressed and getting ready to go outside, you think, okay, well, it's going to be hot outside, but in a way that's refreshing. But when it's like this, when it's 100 degrees, you take 10 steps and you think, oh no, this is like being slapped in the face over and over again. This isn't the comfort of warm weather. This is the end of the world. This is deeply unhealthy. But I figured as long as I was out anyway, I might as well cross Boston Common myself and go to the Brattle Bookshop once I was done. So I went to the Brattle Bookshop, which is, those of you who are new to this channel, it's like 100 new people in a week. They're a great used bookstore in downtown Boston. Just fantastic. They would be great on their own. They would be renown worthy on their own, even if it was just a shop with 3 floors. First, second floor, used books in all categories, and third floor, slightly collectible books, a little pricier stuff in case you're looking for a present or a first edition or something like that. That would already make them noteworthy. But they also have a lot. The lot next door, which would ordinarily be another crammed-in building, is empty, and they fill it with bargain carts of books. Hundreds and hundreds of books for $1, $3, and $5, and constantly changing, constantly updating those bargain carts. So you never know what you're going to find out there. And I figured as long as I was there, and as long as I was boiling hot anyway, I might as well go to the sale lot of the Brattle. Crazy, because the Brattle itself is refreshingly air-conditioned, but now I spent most of my time outside in those books, just to see what would crop up, just to see. I was just there recently, but the Brattle carts change all the time, and the thing about them is you can't force them. You don't know what you're going to get from day to day. Whether it's going to be something new that you've never heard of before, but that you can take a chance because it's $1. Or whether it's something that's not new to you, that you are familiar with, but you've never tried it, and it's only $3, so you might as well. Or it's something that you had once upon a time, an old favorite, because the books that are on the outside carts of the Brattle range, you can find something there that's 150 years old if you want, or something brand new, which leads to many of those pestilential amateur book dealers that have the little pricing guide on their phone, so they're scanning every book, and they don't care about books at all. They don't care about reading. They just want to see if they can make a nickel profit on eBay, and they're out there in force all the time in a place like the Brattle. And I always want to tell them, of course, they're scum, so I don't want to even get anywhere near them, much less speak to them. But if I did, I always want to tell them, one of the best book appraisers anywhere in the world is the owner of this shop and has taught every person in it. All these books have to go through the buying table inside before they come out here. There are no mistakes out here. You're not going to find a Gutenberg. But one way or another, the books range all over the place in terms of age, in terms of what you're getting. So if you go with the right mind frame, so if you go looking, I want Joseph and his brothers in the Penguin trade paperback by Thomas Mann, and that's what I'm looking for, then not only will you not find it, of course, because the Brattle tables don't work that way, but you'll miss all sorts of treasures. And so I went. I went today. I walked around. It was boiling hot, but by then I didn't care. So I got 3 books. Once again, sticking to my quasi-resolution that although I can go to the Brattle, I will not bring home sackloads of books. That's ridiculous. I want to be more judicious in what I buy. Stuff that I might have a chance of actually keeping. And I wanted to show you the 3 books that I got because they sort of symbolize in a miniature way the kinds of things you can see at the Brattle. One is a relatively contemporary history. This is Derek Wilson in The Lion's Court, which I got it when it first came out, and I loved it. It's a history of the Tudor court. And then I got rid of it. I got the advanced copy. I got rid of it. I got the finished copy. I got rid of it. I got a paperback, and I got rid of it. Probably all sent to Tudor history fans, because this is really good, relatively modern Tudor history. And so I was happy to see it again in a perfectly new hardcover for $1. And I one of the reasons that I like it is the cleverness of the organization. This is a study of the Tudor court as told through 6 biographies of 6 different men, all of whom are named Thomas. There's Thomas Wolsey, there's Thomas Cromwell, there's Thomas More, there's Thomas Howard, the Duke of Norfolk. There's Thomas Wriothesley, the Earl of Southampton, Shakespeare's patron. And there's Thomas Cranmer. And it's amazing. It seems like a gimmick at first, but it's amazing how many aspects of Tudor life and Tudor history are covered in the lives of those men. And Derek Wilson does a great job with all of them, including Cranmer's tough. Cranmer is a tough figure to get right. If you get somebody like the Duke of Norfolk right, you have a good chance of getting someone like Cranmer wrong, and Wilson doesn't. So, and I don't have this book. It's a fantastic work on a period of history I know really well, and I don't have it. The problem with sending books to people is that you end up sending the copy that you own, and then you don't have one. and you don't really quite remember it. You make a mental note at the time, oh, okay, I'll send this to so-and-so, and I'll just have to remember to get a copy as soon as I see one, and then 5 years later you've forgotten that you remember to do that, and you look for the book and it's not there. And you've seen that happen many times on this channel. So I have this again. So that's great. Then the next one is an old favorite, something that you will have seen on every used bookstore. It's in every yard sale. It's National Geographic, Men, Ships, and the Sea. A classic, just lavishly illustrated National Geographic volume of all aspects of men and sailing. All time periods, all types of ships. The first one is the end papers of the front of the book is the anatomy of a sailing vessel, all the different parts named, and then if I remember correctly, the end papers in the back are the anatomy of a steamship, and all throughout you get original National Geographic artwork. Let's see if I can find you artwork. Yeah, there we go. And also tons and tons of great photos and maps and charts of where all these famous groundbreaking mariners went, and lore and mythology. Just a great volume. I love these old National Geographic volumes, and they did one in ancient Rome, they did one in ancient Greece. They've done it a bunch. And I grab them whenever I can, but unfortunately I also get rid of them. I give them as often as I get them. But I don't think I know anybody currently who will want this. I am sure there's a copy of this in, for instance, Mark Richardson's big library. I'm sure that there is. And other than that, this will probably be for me, and I will probably spend an hour or two just gloriously soaking it up. I have read this many times, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's an old classic, and it was dirt cheap. I'll reinforce it, and it's a definite keeper. Excuse me. It definitely goes in this room. Which is the kind of thing I was looking for. And unfortunately, I also found that in our third book. And the reason I say unfortunately is because we just got through with this struggle of where to find the last book in this series. Now I found another one. This is Stories in an Almost Classical Mode by Harold Brodsky. This is a big, generous collection of his great short stories that are unlike anything else. They're amazing, atmospheric, immersive stories, whole worlds crammed in with almost no slowing down for the reader. which it first is a little off-putting, and then you just love it. You just want more of it. And this was in disaster shape, so I reinforced it. But it has to go. It is. Well, I mentioned in a few other videos that I'm sort of making a little room for fantastic short story collections here in this room. So I made a video where we actually had to find room for the collected stories of Mavis Gallant. And this is going with those books. So I have to go back to that shelf and find room for another book. I need to get rid of something else. A lot of you had suggestions that you left in comments, or that you emailed me or texted me or whatnot. And I think from listening to you all, I think the weak spot on that shelf still is the paperback history of soccer. The Ball is Round. So I might consider removing that. A lot of you also didn't like that Hannibal by Thomas Harris was on that shelf, and that I can agree with as well, because not only does it seem not to fit, but Hannibal also has a place elsewhere with the rest of Thomas Harris. So I'm not making another video. I won't drag you through it again. But that's where this is going to go. This is going to go with those, and it just made me cognizant of what else I need. It'd be great if I could find a nice, big, generous hardcover of the short stories of Frank O'Connor. Also, I should see if I still have the Library of America, the new Library of America volume of the short stories of John O'Hara, or maybe find a more generous collection of the short stories of John O'Hara. That would be great. But one way or another, we'll see. That shelf will just grow until it's all of the greatest short stories. And I still need Flannery O'Connor and a bunch of other people too. So anyway, so that was my my boiling hot Brattle trip. Was this great old National Geographic volume that I'm sure you've all seen used. Stories in an almost classical mode, and in the Lion's Court about 6 men named Thomas. That was my Brattle visit for today. And I won't be going back again until the weather changes, unless I get another call from on high, from Beacon Hill. And it turned out that the call from Beacon Hill wasn't even about books. One of my old friends, the old friend who called me over, has a grandson who's he's starting college. The students are swarming back into Boston, dude. They're everywhere now. It's interesting and thrilling in a way. It's always thrilling when 800,000 young people swarm into town. It's also can be a little bit disconcerting. You have to fight the old person's urge to think that every new crop of young people is dumber and more entitled than the one before it. That's an old person's reaction. It's not always true. I know that better than anybody, so you have to fight against that. But it means that everything will be crowded now. The subway at all times of the day and night will be crowded. The sidewalks at all times of the day and night will be crowded. And not only crowded, but smelly. Boston's tobacco sales go up by, I think the figure was something like 950%. When the students come back into town. There are whole shops that just close down when the students are gone, and then come back into business and run a booming business when the students are in town, because their parents drop them off with a promise of a monthly allowance of money, and also with, as the parents are leaving, they're so proud that their little prince or princess is now in college, the father will often hand the child a little wad of money, a little bonus amount of money. It immediately goes to their addiction. But the parents don't even know that their children are drug addicts. So there's a huge amount of money being pumped into that little industry in Boston, and it really smells. But this grandson is going to be one of those people. He's been away working for the summer. He's been at a boarding school. I think in New York for the last 4 years. And now he's going to school in Boston. And my old friend sat me down for lunch and gave me time so that I could face muzzle with her little dogs and kiss and coodle at them. And so that was a lot of fun. And she said, I know better than to start talking to you until you've gone through that. Here he is, girls, because her dogs hate visitors. They hate people. I just hate them. She put up with me not only because there's no way not to. There's some things that transcend Boston, Beacon Hill, blue-haired Biddy Beans, but also because it does her heart good to see them squealing with joy while they play with someone. That never happens. So I had a ball, and then once we sat down, she laid out that she's worried about the boy, that she wants to make sure that he has guidance, and that she, as she put it, guidance from me won't do any good. He won't listen to me, but. I have a good track record. with this. Not not the smallest track record being her son when he was an 18-year-old attending school in Boston. So she's going to put me in touch with this 18-year-old, and we will see what we will see. I can work wonders with teenage boys, provided they meet me part of the way. I don't need them to meet me halfway, because they're all self-absorbed narcissists. So they're not going to meet anybody halfway. But I need them to do something. If I email them or message them or meet them for lunch and they don't talk at all, they just look at their phone, or I email them and they don't respond, well, okay, then good luck. You're on your own, and maybe you'll be okay. Probably you will be okay. But I have a lot to offer, and I'm willing to offer it, but you have to meet me part of the way. There has to be a volunteer aspect to it. I haven't met the boy, so there might be nothing there to work with. And my old friend, bless her, made sure to tell me over and over again that if there's nothing there to work with, I'm to tell her straight away. She won't take offense, and he'll be fine. So we shall see. I'll meet him sometime when the weather changes. I'm not going to meet anybody new when it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But that was the whole reason. It had nothing to do with books. I thought they often summon me to their parlors to talk books or to make recommendations, or maybe to do an informal book talk. Every once in a while I will go up and do an informal book talk. They'll all gather together because now they want to know, tell us about this, or tell us about that. And I can't say no, because I love these women dearly. I was amazed. I have a feeling that this old friend of mine is probably a little more worried than she let on, because all of her people are all at Cape Cod. And they're at Cape Cod until after the holiday. The summer ending 3-day weekend holiday is coming up, but it's not here yet. They should be there and soaking in every last minute of time on the Cape, and they're not. She wasn't. She was in town. That had to be a big bother. I'm sure that she would rather have been wearing a huge, ugly straw bonnet and sunglasses and just wandering around the beach. But so she might be worried. I will definitely pay requisite attention when when we finally meet. But that was the extent of my day. BookTube. I went, I had that meeting, we talked, I schmooched with her dogs, I went to the Brattle, I got these 3 books, and then I staggered back here. And after that, it's been complete comfort, complete ease. Frida knows perfectly well we're not going to go on any long walks when it's like this, and that I'm not going to do anything, we're not going to do all kinds of rambunctious play for hours and hours because it's dangerous. We'll just wait. The air will clean out. So, in the meantime, I'll wrap up all this wool gathering, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.